Putsvolle is das beste Putzmaterial. This thing is great if you ever clean some machinery or hands after you work, after you do metalworking. There's nothing that I encountered that beats this. All right, continuing. I decided to repaint her. I would love not to, but it really bugs me, and it's really annoying to look at. And it's not just this top cover. You know, people usually put stuff, tools on there. So after repaint, it will be scratched again pretty soon. But if I show you closer, this is what I actually looking at, and it's flaking off. I did clean it up, sort of removed all these flakes, but it just continued flaking. So, you know, I decided to paint it, and all of that could be repainted separately, like headstock and top cover, apron, even base, you know, those two. That one actually, in my standards for such a machine, doesn't look that bad. But then there's this in the middle of the bed, and let me show you how that is working out. Okay. This is all lifting, all of that. And the lifting paint is from almost one end, I don't know about this end, all the way over here to up there. So since we have that situation, I decided to go ahead and paint it. I don't like painting, but I decided to go with it nevertheless because of the complete state. And you know, this paint is absolutely means nothing. It doesn't protect anything. So I made a plan with non-DCM stripper, mechanical strippers, even steel wool for cleaning dishes and everything else. So I'm gonna do that combination with strippers and mechanical strippers to try to remove this annoying stuff. And I found I don't want to beautify it and modernize it, because that's not the machine. I just chose a paint that would be kind of greenish and would still be easy on the eye. Here's once again how it looks like in the sort of inner sides of the bed casting. This is casting sort of fault, error. I will redo this as well, and gearbox and tailstock are also in the line to be painted. But I first have to remove this saddle and apron, because if I'm gonna paint it, I have to remove all the oil, and without oil I couldn't really move it back and forth to paint it, and it would be easier without apron and saddle to paint it anyways. So that's part of the project I wasn't looking forward to do, but here we are. I changed my mind so many times about the color. I don't want to beautify it or make it, well, beautify okay, but not modernize it. It's an old machine, it should look like that. I changed my mind between gray, which is really dull, mint green, which is appropriate, but it would darken under oil and would look, you know, not that nice anymore. So maybe what would be easy on the eyes is like Windows 95 background scheme or color. I think it's RAL 5018, but we'll see. I changed my mind so many times, quickly. So by the time I start painting, who knows? These what are called hammer paints are very good, very durable, don't chip as easily, but they don't look right. I saw old machinery being painted with this color, and they kind of don't look right. Um, so I decided against it. But that may also change. Inside red paint, I'm not going to even touch. There's a cast iron cover coming on here, so we mounted there, so that will protect it kind of. I'm not crazy enough to remove old red lead paint from there. No way. Even this I consider lead based, just as a precautionary measure. I'm gonna use respirator and not do any dry sanding. Any sanding will be, before the paint is removed, will be wet sanding. After I remove all the paint, then I will dry sand all the areas that I'm gonna paint. I don't like painting. All right, next day. So I decided to disassemble this first, and then in order to paint, it's, I have to disassemble it. I encountered a couple of issues, stumbled upon some obstacles. For example, I cannot pull this. In order to get this off, I have to slide it off. It wouldn't lift, even though I removed the gib. So, but there's not enough room, right? So I would have to pull the lathe a little bit, like a 4 centimeters, so 2 inches more or less, over here, and slide it off. Okay, so, but the apron doesn't come off. And here's my logic. We have these 4 bolts that hold the apron up, and only those 4 bolts. I don't know, I'm not sure what this hole is or was, but there's no bolt in there. You can't see it, but there's nothing in there. Anyways, the apron doesn't budge. My assumption was that it's stuck sealant, whatever, could be, yeah. But moreover, these are pins, more than likely pins. They're in line of where this apron wall is. So these should be pins, and they are, as you can tell, especially this one. Not this guy that much, but a little bit. But this guy, pretty much. Yeah. It's bashed and beaten, probably by students or whoever was working with it. So that now it would act like a rivet, basically. It expanded and grabbed onto the saddle and the apron. So my idea is I'm gonna drill them and tap them and try to extract them. That's the way. They would be reusable depending on the condition, but more than likely I would have to replace them. As for the screw, that looks okay, much better than I expected. All the slack and slack was in the nuts. So there are two brass nuts here, and they are adjusted by the wedge in the middle. So that would have to be recreated from a new piece of stock. Not much more going on. There shouldn't be anything holding apron to the saddle other than bolts and perhaps some elements. There are no mechanical elements, shifting forks or anything like that that would be holding or be connecting these two components. So yeah, I'm maybe already regretting that I went into this scraping and repaint. But then again, if you disassemble and assemble your machine first, you kind of master it. So from that side, I guess it's justified. But it's gonna take time. I don't have a lot of time each day, like less than an hour to do it. So that's why it takes so long between videos and everything else. It's not my job, right? So that's where we are. Yeah. Okay. She was stuck. I was right there. But I didn't pull the pins out. I just decided, since there was a little gap between this front panel, see, this guy bolted to the front face, and the saddle, there was a little gap, and I decided to just try one more time with the flat screwdriver and hammer, and yeah, it went nicely. Actually, it's the same thing that I already saw, and these older machines, they are pretty stuck this way, and one of those design features and things when people say they don't build stuff like this anymore, that would be one of it. Although I'm in no way supporting that way of thinking, because newer machines, I mean serious machines, are built much better. But anyways, comparable machine, yeah, they are better built, in the old days. Although in some ways needlessly. She's ready for paint, and I can tell you right now, never ever will I do it again. This was pain. It took me almost a month to strip it down and to sand it, prepare it for paint. This was crazy. And it was like, look at the paint at the floor. It was largely because I only have like an hour or two a day to do it. Man, this is crazy. It's kind of interesting as well. Many casting defects, but nothing too terrible. She was full of filler, which is understandable, because if you look at that, look at the casting. See? Crazy. But I mean, the bed is very nicely done. Bed, in my opinion, needed no no filler whatsoever. Headstock, yeah, somewhat, but the bases were most affected by the deformation, and you know, probably either the way they manufactured at the time, or they were in a hurry to get it done. Limited resources, whatever. Look at that. Let us take a look from beneath. See? There it is. Oh, yeah, okay. So, tiny cross members, but I didn't expect any. So, well, they're not that tiny, but you know. In the middle of the bed here is what I presume is witness to, so this is roughly in the middle of the bed. It's where two fronts met, liquid fronts, when the bed was cast. See? Nice. Okay. What else? Yeah, headstock. Front side of the one of the bases. This thing, I thought it was just a box, electrical box, but no, it was cast in. This is cast iron. It's the same part. This is pain. I will never again strip a machine and repaint it. If I ever buy a new machine or a used machine, I will look for color that I like. So the only decent thing, well, it's a good machine, far from it, but you know, look at these defects. Look at that. See? This is all filled with filler. The only that didn't need any really filler, but they, you know, they tried to correct it with filler as well, was the bed. Oh my god. I sound this way because I wear a half mask, and I don't know what that stuff all is until this is all cleaned. I'm not getting in the workshop without a half mask, that's for sure. So I don't have a needle scaler. This is what I did it with mostly. This was not the only tool, but this tool was the best. Highly recommend it. It needed a couple of sharpening sessions here, but these features are great. This and this guy. This radius, you can accommodate any radius by tilting, you know, and pulling this way with this guy here. This is a great tool. Yeah, I don't have a needle scaler and the compressor as well, so I would have done it with that for sure. Yeah, she owes me a month of labor. The bases were rusty, like last 2 inches all the way to the bottom. Both bases were rusty, and I used a little bit of phosphoric acid, just a little bit, and turned it into phosphate. I hope it is deep enough. There's still some acid stuck underneath. I hope this will not dissolve the bases completely. I don't think so. It's not that much, you know, but there you go. I treated it with a little bit of phosphoric acid to get rid of rust, which emerges after you sand it. Like here, this was rust, a little bit, you know, and here also. Focus, come on. Yeah. and there. So yeah, now it's gray and stable, I hope, you know, for the next, what, 80 years or so. This is our pen, chip pen, and this is how it was made. Kind of interesting. They it's not stamped, they just bent it and cut and then welded it together on these edges. It's a sheet steel about maybe 2.53 millimeters thick or so. Quite heavy duty, but for its day it was, I guess, cost-cutting measure or cost-cutting way to make a chip pen. I'm guessing this is not electrically welded, likely gas welding for that era. I'm preparing this for paint, and it's a little bit bent, so let me just straighten it as much as I can. It's not a big deal, but you know, if I can do some mending, why not? So I apply the phosphating coat on it after the greasing, and here we have like a couple of hits here and there. I would hammer it out, but I live in residential area, so hammering is out of the question. It won't be such a big deal anyways, so right, let's go on. Next up, we are gonna put back the chip pen in. I figured it's gonna also be useful while mounting all the different parts, like apron, you know, main carriage, tailstock, gearbox, and so on. I painted it this color. It's pretty glossy, more glossy than I would like to, but it is what it is. The only deviation from that era, I mean, gray was painted on machines even earlier than this one, but this middle sort of area between the bedways was usually red or gray. I deviated with ochre from that usual practice. But it's more it's brighter and easier to look at and see all the different, you know, small parts that will fall down onto. We'll see. Anyways, next up is mounting in the chip pen. Alright, she's roughly where I want her to be. There's still a little bit of work around and, you know, tidying up and cleaning, right? But that's her, and roughly her place where she's gonna live from now on. Moving heavy, large machinery or heavy, large objects definitely requires some ingenuity. You really easily forget how blessed you are to be able to move smaller things when doing this stuff. Imagine even larger, like working on ships and larger installations. So this is for now. Next up, cleaning the saddle and assembling this, cleaning and painting the saddle and tailstock gearbox. Then we're gonna assemble. First, put the saddle back on the main carriage, and after that, the freshly painted apron. Yeah, fun times. Right. So this is a little bit awkward position, but this is the only way I can present. So let us first tackle first things. So I want to get settled on, and the most important thing is to clean it and figure out how lubrication works. And this is how it works, right? So it's a little bit crude. Okay, so we have this port here, and this sort of opening. It's not really a port, but it kind of serves the same purpose. So a port with oiling grooves. So this is the so way sliding surface that is the closest to the operator. So right, and this is on the right hand side, and this is in the middle, sort of in line with the feed screw for the cross slide. So let's get this first here done. So this is in line with something that looked like an oiler at some point, but it's not anymore. So that will have to go out, and I'm gonna have to buy some oilers, right? So there is this oiler here, which was always protected by the cross slide, and that works, okay? And that oils the feed screw. However, the feed screw, that oil drips out here as well, somewhat lubricating this surface also, besides that oiling groove. Okay, so that's all there is for the main sliding surface. There's nothing else. And there's this guy here, this star, which oils the flat side, the far side from the operator's point of view, and it has this sort of star-shaped oiling groove, and this has, so this is not, that's not it. This is a mounting hole for something. I'm not sure what, but it was this. It's just a hole, and I don't think it's too small for an oiler. I don't know how that works, so I'm gonna have to take care of that as well. So clean it and remember it for oiling. So this is this side, this thing here couldn't oil anything. I don't think so. Could it? No, I don't think so. So this is just a hole for I don't know what it is. Maybe mounting something. Not sure. There it is. So no pressure oiling system, nothing like that. Even though the machine looks like modern machine, 50s, 60s, it's not. It's an old style machine that just looks a little bit modern. So what else? Yeah, no. This is a plain bearing for the main screw, for the cross slide feed screw, and this is the mating surface as well. Cast iron, nothing in there. Is that the mating surface? I'm not sure. I will have to see when I assemble it. I will let you know how this works. But yeah, that's it. This is also, I believe, cast iron. Not sure. This is pressed in, and held secure by this. See, there's the groove, and when that comes in, by that set screw. So very old school, an old machine, right? Sorry for the mess. I've been busy assembling the old parts that are that were on the floor, so cleaning this up and mounting them on the lathe one by one. So I mounted the saddle, apron, then the gearbox, this one at least, the other one is over here in the mess. So yeah, taking care of some minor things, as for example, I sealed the surface here, and I had to remove and reinstall this guiding bar, well, not guiding bar, power feed bar. Since I had that seal there, I had to drop the apron down, pull it out, and install it from the other side. The cross slide is on. I will remove it and show it to you what it looks inside. I install some new bling, obviously, like these oilers and that one over here. They mostly work, but any back pressure, it just it mostly squirts back out if there's any back pressure on that front side. But these are very, very small ball oilers. Unlike the old ones, the new one. These are the old ones. They have a bigger valve ball installed. See the difference? So there's that. I cleaned it. I knocked out all the burrs. The machine has like suffered some damage, which is mostly seen on the compound slide, as you will see soon. But she was pretty much abused. Let me show you what I mean. So, for example, this is a carriage main saddle wheel, right? So there it is, and it was installed here. Look at this. See, someone drew a nail through a tailstock spindle or the power feed shaft, and they modified the main carriage to kind of lock into there. And look at this. This was likely a ball bearing race. So what I will have to do is, this is the main carriage shaft. All the woodruff keys were missing, so I bought some. It cost me whole 60 cents for 5 pieces. I guess they were too expensive to buy, so the previous owner missed on that. One of the previous owners. So woodruff keys go in. That wheel goes back here. it's cracked, so I will have to take it to someone who can brace that back together. See the crack there? Yeah. Okay, there you go. Okay. What else? Yeah, so this has no it has just its normal parallel key, no Woodruff key. Still someone managed to drill a hole through there. This may be an original, I'm not sure. All throughout the lathe I can see numbering like 240 for some reason. There you go, look at those pretty numbers. These are all the original numbers, and they are found here as well. 240, look how nice they look, right? And they are also found on two bronze nuts, which I will have to remove this. I'm just was trying to see if it fits. And I will show you. And they are original castings, not remade. Over 80 years old. Imagine that. But there you go. I'm progressing slowly. This is the next biggest worry. How I'm gonna remove this flange. I may turn it down and remove. I may also try to, well, first I'm gonna give my best to, screw it off of there, off of this spindle nose without bending the spindle. Not that that would be an easy thing, but still, I have only one spindle. If nothing else works, I'm gonna cut it down here, maybe on the other side as well, and drive a chisel slowly down the crack and hope that the whole thing would crack apart, and so I can remove it and remanufacture a new one for newer and better chucks that I'm gonna have to find for that. So, but not yet, right? So I'm gonna test and see with the old chuck how it goes and if it runs okay. She's in pretty nice condition. As far as the sliding surfaces go, the main saddle has two back plates that when I removed it, disassembled it, they had like paper 0.4 millimeter shims. I bought some copper shims, copper plate that's about that size, and I'm gonna combine it to 0.4, maybe 0. Something else to make it, to allow it to slide easily over the still scraped surfaces, right? So it's still a little bit messy, but here's a shot of the complete project I have so far. Obviously the motor and its gearbox is still to be installed. One more interesting thing. I was thinking and reading about how this lathe was manufactured so that it has like very precise feed stop. And originally I thought these had to do something with that. Well, maybe, but there's no mechanism that pushes inside the apron to stop it. What I was thinking about is this. It says, let me kind of zoom on. It says, what is, yeah, okay. So, Drehspannung klein groß, which means turning pressure small and big, little the translation. So it should be this nut here. I'm guessing, since there is no feed screw for turning threads, that there is a clutch mechanism inside there, that if this encounters feed pressure, like it hits on the well, not headstock, but there was supposed to be mounted a stop here. If it hits that, the pressure builds up and it stops. It disengages. It kind of sounds like that. See? And it's easy to disengage. Kind of difficult to engage, a little bit easy to disengage. So by the location and everything else, I'm guessing that's what it is. I will have to see and do a little bit more research. I didn't dare putting this apron up completely apart. It is sealed unit. I took it off, but you can't see anything in there. And if that's the case, then I can understand how this is really a precise way of stopping the feed, right? So you come up to a hard point and it overcomes the pressure and it just stops. There's no disengage mechanism error introduced into that measurement. If that's the case, pretty clever, right? Some of the more stupid designs features is this round T-slot for the compound slide. I will have to see, but I'm pretty sure you would have to remove the cross slide in order to install these nuts, which is, you know, kind of stupid. You could do it from above. There's there are three nuts that hold it, and they could have made three positions so that it comes off, and it would be only one position. Say if the compound slide is fed to this direction, so if you turn it that way, you can pull it off. They could have done that, or something else. I don't know, but it seems to me that this would be a rather poor design choice. Even though this machine is really old in design and manufacture, like I guess beginning of 40s, the design is 30s, and back then quite few, if any, lathes or machines had this long cross slide. Now, if you encountered any or checked any machines that are made like in 50s or so that had a short cross slide, they usually meant that this sliding surface is worn out. This sliding surface is not worn out. When I remove this, all the scrapings are still there. And that's because this is a longer style cross slide. My first thought was they learned something from the experience. That may be the case, but it also may be the case that this machine is production machine, and they planned on having one compound slide and another maybe compound or whatever feature for additional cutting of the part. So the machine is whenever I don't know how it looks like on video or what's the impression, but seeing it live, like, you know, standing next to it, for the size, like this bed is pretty deep and pretty damn wide, which is nothing I complain about, right? But these production machines were built to work 24/7 with little or sometimes even no supervision. Well, I don't think so. It's not a CNC. With little supervision, or at least in 3 shifts with a labor that is not specifically trained to do metalworking, I think. There you go. I may wrap this video up because it took well over a month to clean and paint. When I started cleaning, I thought pretty soon, man, that's never gonna end, especially because I didn't have so much time each day. But you quickly learn that any amount of work you put into a project is cumulative, meaning it grows. So, you know, you learn patience, which I kind of needed.